What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. This video is directed towards continental Africans. And I want to be very careful and sensitive about this topic because it's very important and it's something that we either going to have to deal with right now or it's going to get dealt with later. Okay? Now, in the age of information, everybody's trash is coming out of the closet, right? Everybody's dysfunctions are starting to be put on display, right? And, you know, Europeans' dysfunction is being put on display, right? African Americans' dysfunction has always been on display, right? Our stuff is out there, good, bad, and different. It's out there on display, right? But I just need to warn my continental Africans, my brothers and sisters, that there are things about African culture, various different African cultures and traditions, right? And things that are not really African traditions, but things that Africans have incorporated into their traditions that are inspired by outside forces, right? Outside influences that we as Africans need to eliminate. And in order to do that, you're going to have to talk about it, right? Because, you know, one thing about us black folks, I think this is a human thing, but I think us black folks are more vocal about it, is that human beings don't like to be told about the negative aspects of their culture. Human beings don't like to be told that this part of your culture that you guys practice is something that you should probably rethink practicing, or you should probably fight against, right? Because it's not good. And just like we, you know, always mention the things about European culture that we don't like, right? That's not good, and we want them to change it, right? We point it out, you know, we highlight it, we poke fun, you know, we get a little extra about it, but all in all, the conversation is being had, right? As well as other groups who, you know, when they find themselves stepping up on the world stage as far as, you know, notoriety, right? People who are starting to recognize you. And the thing is, this is an African generation, right? Africa's coming up. 70% of Africans are under the age of 35. Like, we literally have the future. The future is about to be handed to us, right? And more people are interested in doing business in Africa. More countries, more nations are interested in doing proper business in Africa, as African countries are about to experience a major influx of foreign investment, right, and foreign interest, which is fine and okay, because just like any metropolitan area around the world, it becomes a multicultural place, just like America, right? You go to New York, you see everybody. There are communities of different races within New York establishing themselves to take advantages of the opportunities America has to offer. Same thing in London, same thing in Australia, same thing everywhere where people and businesses are thriving. And so Africa, no difference. There will be people from many different countries moving there permanently to benefit from the opportunities that Africa has to offer. All right? Every race of people is currently doing that. You go to any of these African countries right now, you will find many different nationalities, all right? They're seeking out better opportunity, utilizing the leverage that they bring to the continent. While that's happening, while people are moving into the country and experiencing the various different cultures of Africa, they're also going to run to and experience the negativity of various different African cultures. They're going to experience the bad side of African spirituality. They're going to experience the bad side of Africans' interpretation of Christianity and Islam. They're going to experience the bad side of desperate and poor people who are being taken advantage of by the government, right? And just like when you go any place else, right? If you look like you come from somewhere else, you are usually deemed higher on the list of potential targets for those who want to participate in criminal activity, right? And that's no matter where you go, right? And there's no difference in Africa. And the criminal elements of Africa will target you if you look like you're easily manipulated, right? And so there are, without me saying all the things, because like I said in my other videos, there are things that continental Africans, there are things that African Americans and African Caribbeans are finding out about certain things that's happening in various different African countries, that no matter how negatively they may possibly be speaking about their experiences, no matter how untalented some of these African diasporas are in trying to drum up algorithms and gaslighting to get more views, no matter how many passport bureaus go over there and participate in the activities that the white passport bureaus have been participating in for hundreds of years and being called out by other Africans, what's happening is continental Africans are calling out African Americans for participating in the sex industry, the travel sex industry in Africa, right? Which I believe they should, right? You should call them out. Nothing wrong with that, right? And they're calling out African Americans or African Caribbeans who are acting badly in these countries. So all of a sudden, right, there's interest in defending the women of Africa and defending the honor in the name of African countries against African Americans, right? Because all of a sudden now it's a priority, right, to defend Africans from African Americans, right? Which brings up a more important issue. The same people trying to defend all Africans from African Americans who go over there acting badly have not one time made videos talking about how that white man has went over there and taken advantage of the African woman. You don't have any smoke for that white man that's taking advantage of that African woman. They also don't seem to want to talk about within their various countries how women are being taken advantage of and discriminated against. There are African male content creators, mostly male content creators, who conveniently, leave out the messiness within the closet of various different African countries. Because if we're going to be honest, Africa is not the safest place for a black woman. Not the safest place. It's not the most fair place for a black woman. Right? It's not, it can be hostile to black women. And because various different African groups have adopted Christianity and Islam, they treat the African woman the same way their white massa treats the African woman. They take liberties upon the African woman because the people they worship and value, that white man, takes liberties with the African woman. I'm going to need male African content creators who seeks liberation for Africans earnestly, who seek Pan-African solutions to problems, to look deeper within Pan-Africanism and recognize that your black woman is also a member of the black community, and they should also receive equality as well. As an African man, I don't see a world in which we can gain respect and equality on the global scale without giving our black woman the same respect on the continent. Just like I say for the Indian people in India, no Indian is touchable until the untouchables are touchable. Y'all get what I'm saying? No Indian is touchable until the untouchables are touchable. Then the Indians are touchable. So that means no black nation, no black men should be liberated and respected until the black woman is liberated and respected. If the black man is not willing to liberate and respect the black woman, then no other race should be required to liberate and respect the black man. You get what I'm saying? As a black man, you can't advocate for pro-blackness and Pan-Africanism if you're not pro-black with your own woman. The first puzzle to the black man's piece is the black woman. And we have to stop hiding the fact that African men in various different African countries have a recent cultural practice of taking advantage of black women. It's an epidemic in Africa. And African Americans who are over there tend to try not to say anything because we don't want to make African countries and societies look bad. We don't want to do what that white person does when they come to Africa and they go to the worst places and talk about the worst things and never look at the beauty, never highlight the greatness, right? So African content creators are doing their best to come there and say, these are the great parts. These are the parts of Africa we want you to see. Come and visit, right? Come and explore your culture, because it is our culture, right? While the white man goes there and goes to the poor village and puts on a persona of Captain Save All the Blacks, white savior. Look at me, I'm coming here to do that. Remember when Mr. B said he was doing this $40 million thing with all the YouTubers to put up all these daggone water borehole systems in Africa? Have you noticed that white man who got that $40 million from all the around the world to go build wells for Africa? You ever noticed that not one of those wells was built? Mr. Beast, the white guy who pretended like he cared about Africans, went over there, made himself look like a white hero, like Superman, and went over there, collected a whole bunch of people's money, and ain't nobody seen one well get built. No campaign to say, hey, this is the results of our philanthropist work, right? But in fact, even in the most acrimonious altercations that we have, African Americans and African Caribbeans are still holding back on many of the things that we can talk about. But the problem is, as Africa becomes more connected to the rest of the world, as more people start to travel there are going to be people who are not going to hold back on the things that is happening in Africa that no one's talking about. There's going to be people who go there and there's going to tell the truth about what's happening in certain African countries to certain groups of people. And they're not going to have any empathy for the black African man. They're going to paint the black African man the way the black African man should be painting the black African man, by holding their own selves accountable for their participation in the dehumanization of other human beings. And the thing is, if African people understood their history, they would know this is not an African thing. This is an imported ideology of looking at black women as second-class citizens, right? Treating them as second-class citizens. Having our way with their bodies with no discipline. We don't respect our female elders like we used to, and take their counsel in consideration the way we used to, because we believe that we are the end-all, be-all. Something given to us by the white man who created toxic masculinity culture, and we have adopted that because it was forced upon us. So if you notice, I've been very careful and I haven't said anything. I haven't put any details about what I'm talking about. In any continental African, whether you live in Americas, Canada, the UK, or whatever, you guys, I'm sure if you could take 5 minutes and think about the practices that are happening in the villages, the practices that are happening in those rural areas that's really far away from any federal or state police enforcement, the situations happening between the super extreme Christians and the super extreme traditionalists in the woods. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm being very tactful, because even when talking about this sensitive subject, I don't want someone to take this and use this as a weapon against my brothers and sisters. But we're going to have to talk about it, because somebody's going to force the issue. Somebody's really going to force the issue. And like I said, there are some things. And every African American who's been to Africa knows what these things are. And we're not talking about the lack of development either, because we smart, intelligent African Americans understand what the lack of development is. We understand the foreign policy of the West is the same foreign policy that they have inside these Western countries towards their black population. It's the same thing. So we understand the mechanisms of how that happened. But the other stuff, there's no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse for it. And we must raise the intelligence and the educational awareness of our Africans on the continent, so that they can take advantages of the resources that they have. Because it's not as if they don't have all the resources to thrive. It's that some of them don't have the know-how. They don't know how to put 1 and 2 together. And they don't have anybody trying to help them put 1 and 2 together, because everybody is in survival mode and they're trying to take from anybody who's sucker enough to get taken advantage of. And that's a problem, right? So that's something that we're going to have to deal with. But in the meantime, you know what I'm saying, you continental Africans are going to have to start to learn and practice the art of taking criticism. You're going to have to learn that when someone criticizes your country or your people in the country, if they can do it in a mature, respectful way, i.e. if they're doing it in a mature, respectful, and earnest way, you need to learn how to take that hit. The same way you take the hit from a white man anytime a white man chooses to disrespect you, how you just hee ha ha and laugh it off because you feel like there's a financial benefit on the other side of that. You should be able to process the criticisms coming from your African brothers and sisters, right? And then say, you know what, do some self-reflecting, like, is this true? Is this really something that we need to, work on as whatever respective tribe, nation, or nationality you are in Africa, right? Do some self-reflecting, because if there's a whole bunch of people talking about a specific issue, then it must be an issue, because there's a common denominator in the issue, right? So somewhere along all the trash talking, there's truths in that trash talking, right? And if you are a continental African that's not in Africa currently trying to fix the problems within Africa, using the leverage that you've gained in the West, if you are still in the West benefiting the West, yet complaining about why your continent, why your country, why your tribe is not doing better than it should, then you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself why you are not participating in the development and the educational awareness of your people. Who are you waiting for to do it? What magical being are you waiting to go to the country you're from and fix the problems within your country? How do you manifest that black excellence that you know that's possible in your country? How do you duplicate your success in the West? How do you duplicate that back in your own country? Because it needs to happen. I know a lot of people try to hurt continental Africans' feelings by saying, why don't you go home and, fix your own countries? Or you have white people say, go back to Africa. Right? Whatever, right? But if you really think about it, even though they're saying it in a malicious way, if you truly think about it, they're not wrong. Because you're the best. All of you African people who are in the West, you are literally the best of what Africa has to offer as far as economic leverage, intellectual leverage, know-how and do-how. You come to the West and you gain those necessary tools that your brothers and sisters need over on the continent to put two and two together. Yet you rather work for Microsoft. You rather work for Apple. You rather work from some white person because you know that they're going to pay you a lot of money and you can live in a white community and you can send your African kids to white schools and you can go join a golf club and you can participate in the luxuries of life. Right? And that spoiledness that a lot of you continental Africans you receive over here makes it so you're too comfortable here to go back and be uncomfortable enough to fix the problems within your countries and deal with the social issues in your countries, because it's going to take you to deal with the social issues in the country. It's going to take some African diaspora to go back and get involved in local politics and infuse modern techniques into local politics, to infuse systems that will benefit your people in Africa, to educate your people to believe in a better way, to use their brains in a more optimal way. It's going to take the diaspora to do that. It's not enough to complain on the internet about how it's not happening, how your African leaders back there are not doing anything. You are the ones that's supposed to go make the change. The whole point of you being sent out to the West was for you to gather resources and come back to benefit your people, but you don't. You benefit yourself. And that's a major problem. The brain drain in Africa from all the people who leave, all the elites, all the capable individuals leave Africa and leave all the people who don't necessarily have the tools or the leverage to be able to combat the things that's historically wrong with our people, right? So, and it shouldn't take African Americans going back home, right? Going back home, by the way, right? To reveal some of these things that need to be revealed. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, some things are better left unsaid, but you better remember that the stuff that's better left unsaid by us is going to be said by somebody else. And then at that point, all of us continental Africans, all of us African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans are going to be questioning why for years did we not bring this up knowing that we knew this. They're going to hold us accountable for not saying it when we saw it, for pretending like it doesn't exist. Because if you pretend like a problem doesn't exist, all it does is exacerbate the problem. You become a part of the problem, and you're the reason why the problem grows and doesn't get fixed. Doing nothing about a problem that you know about, or saying something, not saying something about a problem that you know about, is almost just as bad as doing something as being the cause of that problem in the first place. You are the cog of the machine of the dysfunction that causes the pain and suffering to continue, because you're not brave enough, or you're not willing to make yourself uncomfortable enough to make the change. right? You need to start hating the different aspects of African culture that hold our people down. You need to start hating that. You need to start hating the mechanisms of white supremacy and how it has such a far reach all the way into your politicians and your business class of your various different countries in Africa, right? The same way we African Americans, right? We need to be upset that we're so complacent in America and we allow politicians to dictate how we live in our communities in America. It goes both ways, you know? But I just want to forewarn African content creators who concentrate on us so much, right? While pretending like there's not massive problems in Africa that has nothing to do with white supremacy, right? That if exposed to the world would make certain groups of Africans look worse than the propaganda given to us by the white man, and would give the white man extra propaganda to create, you know, on top of the propaganda that's already created, because this one would have a little hint of truth in it, you know? So I'm giving a fair warning to you African content creators. You got to find a way to get in front of this information. All right, I'm going to say a couple words to kind of reference you. Money rituals, women disappearing in the woods for particular reasons, women not having equal rights with men, and how that manifests itself in every country, men taking advantage of their strength over women in Africa, and the toxic masculinity culture. Not the masculine culture, the toxic masculinity culture, which should be separated. You can be a man, you can be tough, you can be strong, and you can be respected for your strength without being a toxic masculine man. Because most toxic masculine men are not actually masculine, because when that toxic masculine man gets around a real masculine man, that toxic masculine man becomes a bitch. That's why they're so toxic to the female, because they have to compensate for not being able to be masculine enough to stand up against various different males on an even playing field. That is usually the truth. The most toxic masculine man is a bitch when it comes to standing up and measuring himself up to other men, if you have not noticed. But anyway, I hope you understand this very coded and rated PG-13 conversation when it comes to what I'm talking about. It's hard to like to stay, you know, it's hard to talk about this without talking about it. But all my African Americans and African Caribbeans who's traveled to Africa, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Verify it in the comment section for me without being too detailed. But, you know, let them know that we, you know what I'm saying, we holding a whole bunch of spades in our pockets. And just be lucky enough that FBA are usually the poor Africans who cannot travel to Africa and find out a lot of this information, because they sure enough would be using it right now if they knew. All right, but luckily African Americans and African Caribbeans are flying over there who got their head on their shoulders, and they're kind of like, you know, passport bros, they just looking to have sex. Those are just sex tourists. All right, that's what they are. That's what they do. They're basically FBA adjacent, right? But they're not so FBA that they wouldn't, you know, have relations with other women that are not FBA, right? So how FBI loyal are they actually? So anyway, I hope you guys understood what I said in such code, you know, and I didn't give any spoilers for what it is that we're really talking about here, but it's a major issue that if we want Africa this is the African century, and as more people start to expose, if more cultures within Africa start to be highlighted, as more African people become more prominent, it's inevitable, but a lot of this information that I'm not saying is going to come out. And we got to get in front of it before it does. We have to put it in context before it does. We have to get to the root of how it occurred, who implemented it, and how it came to be before someone else does it. Let's not let white people and Asian people moving to Africa tell our story. Let's us be the ones to tell and control our story. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
I'm so pro-black, you can't get me to involve myself in diaspora wars. I'm every nigga on this earth. I'm African, I'm Caribbean, I'm Afro-Latina, I'm Afro-European. If you're a nigga, I am you, you're me. I don't know what to tell you. You're me, you're me, I'm you. I don't know.
Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.